Hi, welcome to our podcast, Making Sense, brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. I'm one of your hosts, Brandy Gomez, and I'll be taking your questions to the experts to help you make sense of your money. Pun intended. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Making Sense podcast. For this episode, we're going to be digging deeper into how Navy Federal and its team members live into our core value of championing communities through volunteer service. And with us, I am so excited. We have two incredible volunteer leaders, Jenny Lynn and Michelle. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us. We're excited.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So let's take a minute to learn more about each of you before we dive into what we are here to talk about. Tell me a little bit about your role at Navy Federal and how long you've been with the credit union. And with that, Jenny Lynn, let's start with you.
Sure. I've been with Navy Federal for almost 11 years now. My current role is an enterprise business process analyst. So basically, we look at enterprise processes and see how we can make them more efficient. So that's the primary role in my main career field here at Navy Federal.
Awesome. Michelle, what about you?
I am a senior learning solutions architect. Short story, I lead a lot of projects that have to do with training. I'm in the Savings and Membership Department. I have been with Navy Federal almost 11 years, same as Jenny, and in March it will be 11 years.
Thank you. I know when I was getting ready for this podcast, you both have fancy titles, and to learn that you're not new to Navy Federal, 11 years is a significant amount of time. So I appreciate both of you spending time with me today. And while you may have very different roles, I think what I love so much about working here is how we're all connected through our passion for service, whether that's on the front line, directly serving our members, or working in the back office, taking care of all of the services and programs that are needed to make sure that our frontline team members can serve. And then you all take it above and beyond with the rest of our team and how you give back in our communities. In fact, both of you are community service champions and you're part of our board service program. So you definitely have a passion for this work. So tell me a little bit more. Where did you first realize that you were passionate about giving back?
I can go first. Giving back was rooted in just the way I was grown up or how I grew up. I'm actually a military child, so it's instilled on military bases in the community. We're constantly volunteering ever since I was little. So from that, taking that piece of that military culture, it just is embedded in the way I am. So at any opportunity I have to volunteer, which is one thing I love about Navy Federal, is it's rooted in our culture. It is a priority as well. So that's what got me started in community service. I started my dad was stationed in Rota, Spain. And the type of volunteering opportunity for me was helping the dog shelter there. And it just started from there. And I've just continued doing it throughout my life. So it's rooted in me.
I love that. And I think you make such a valid point, Jenny Lynn, about how I think just organically within the military community, it's part of how you connect with each other. I have two military children. And so I do know that it's been important for me and my family to make sure that we are taking that time, whether it is Memorial Day weekend or during Veterans Day, going and cleaning up the local veterans park. So definitely love your connection. And thank you for your unique service as a military child. Michelle, how about you? How did you first get connected to giving back?
So I think for me, just a nurturer by nature. And have just always been one of those people that, how can I help somebody? What can I do? What can I give them? It makes me feel good to take care of others. So with this program and being at Navy Federal, I think that really was a jumping platform for me to dive in a little bit deeper, because we have our Navy Federal Serves portal where we can go in there. We can look at any type of opportunities and things that we can take advantage in our community or really nationwide. This opportunity kind of found me through that portal. They were looking for board members for Child Guardians Incorporated, and I just felt like it was a perfect fit for me right from the beginning. And so I've been with now with Child Guardians Incorporated for, I guess, going on about 2 years.
That's amazing. And I think both of you touched on this a bit and how you connected to giving back early on. And that was through truly that personal connection. I think it's so important that when you do find a cause or a nonprofit that matters to you, I think you want to give more when you are interested in it and it pours just as much back into you as you do it. And so I think that's why I love our Dollars for Doers program, which both of you are here today to talk more about that. So not only are you community service champions and board members, but you're also a recipient of our Dollars for Doers grants, which is another Navy Federal Serves program. The Dollars for Doers program actually celebrates how our team members champion our communities through volunteer service, whether that's giving back in person or virtual. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of the program is no matter where you serve, it matters. And you can be recognized through the Dollars for Doers grant program. 100 employees each year are recognized by receiving a $1,000 grant made payable to the nonprofit where they volunteer. So $100,000 impact each year. And I know it's something that we're quite proud of. We actually have surpassed a total impact since the inception of the program. We're now at $1.7 million. And so I know that that is something that we are extremely proud of. And this wouldn't be possible without the service of amazing team members like you both. So let's talk a little bit more about the nonprofit that is receiving a grant this year from Dollars for Doers. And I understand that to be the Child Guardians nonprofit. So who wants to tell me more about Child Guardians? And I know I personally would love to hear how you both got involved in this organization.
Sure, we're happy to share. So Child Guardians Inc. is actually very local to Florida's 1st District. So this supports Florida counties of Escambia, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, and Walton, which is very close to our campus in Florida. And we specifically help abused, neglected, or abandoned children through its direct funding of children's needs and through support of organizations serving these children in these counties. So we are a completely all volunteer board. No one is compensated, so all of the income or all of the donations that we receive go directly, or most of it goes directly to the children local to Florida's 1st District. Some examples of things we support, we tend to help direct fund more of those normalcy type of activities, so extracurricular activities or summer camps. Some of the basics needs, sometimes clothes or any of those items. But we also like to fund some of those fun ones, those moments that matter. So we funded Disney trips or theme parks. And it's those things that, from a financial standpoint, some foster parents are not able to provide. So that's where we provide that funding. It's definitely behind the scenes. They don't know that we're supporting them, and we help them fund those types of activities for those children. Oh, and to add, my involvement, I'm particularly interested in more of those behind the scenes volunteer opportunities. So I've actually been part of Child Guardians now for 7 years. I've served in multiple roles from secretary. Now I serve as treasurer, so I deal with all of the financial aspects of the nonprofit. And actually, Michelle and I work closely together because we're like the direct tie to the local agencies. So we actually receive the requests, and I'm the one that's dispersing the funds to help with whatever the request might be. So that's how I got involved with Child Guardians.
Michelle, what about you?
So as I mentioned, Jenny was kind of the person who brought me in because she posted the opportunity into our Navy Federal Serves. They were looking for someone else to come in, be a volunteer. As this is so convenient for me too, because most of what we do is virtual. So my role is the Brandon Fund chairperson. So the Brandon Fund is a designated fund that we do some of the things that Jenny mentioned. So I'll just give you kind of a little snapshot of what that process looks like. So caseworkers, of course, work with the foster children, and there might be a need from that foster family, and it's outside of the normal, and it might be even a medical need that the insurance doesn't cover, or some of the household items. I mean, I could give 1,000 examples of things that we have done in requests that we receive. So when that request comes into our inbox, we take a look at it, make sure that it meets our missions, our goals of what we're trying to do with our 501. So we take a look at that, and then we take it out to our board members, and we take it up for consideration. We take a vote on it, and then if that's awarded, I let the caseworker know that whatever that need is, and then that's where Jenny comes into it, and she disperses the funds, works with the First Family Network, which is normally where we get a lot of requests from the counties, but there are other agencies that we work with. So that's kind of the bottom line of that process.
And I know, thank you both, and congrats again on the Dollars for Doers grant. I know that it makes a big impact to nonprofits. And I know, Jenny Lynn, you mentioned this, being an all volunteer board, having the time and the talents from each of you being lent to this nonprofit organization is such a big deal. I know I personally serve on a board, and for me, it is such an incredible opportunity for me to be able to leverage Navy Federal's tools and resources to pour back into them when I know that nonprofits already have such a limited capacity as it is. So everything counts: time, treasure, talent. Can you tell me a little bit more about maybe a memorable moment that you've had so far with Child Guardians? How did it make you feel? Or was there a specific client success story that really always hits home for you when you think about your time with the organization?
I would love to share a little story.
Yeah.
So recently we were at the First Family Network here in Pensacola. We were there at a site visit, and that's when it really struck home with me. Like, so we do a lot of virtual work. So of course we don't see the families, we don't see the kids. But on this particular visit, I was there, and we were walking around where the different caseworkers have their small little cubicles. Most of the cubicles were overflowing. I mean, honestly, overflowing with bags of clothes and backpacks and toys, things that have been donated. And, seeing them in action. And then I walk further down the hallway, and there was a room with a caseworker and some children in the room with a parent where they had their visitation with their parent. And, it just really struck home with me that what we were doing, and seeing the kids who are in foster care, and seeing the enormous amount of work. They have a small amount of caseworkers with a lot of children, unfortunately, in foster care. And so just even seeing a few kids, and even though it may not be the ones that we directly impacted, it really just struck my heart. Like, what we are doing is really making a difference.
I think for me, I don't have a specific story. Now looking back 7 years, I've seen a lot of the requests that come in, but I think the ones that speak to me the most are, you see requests for such fundamental needs, and you really take it for granted. I think one that really spoke to me is sometimes when these children are placed into foster homes or with foster families, they literally have nothing. They are placed absolutely nothing. So I think there was one where we received a request where they needed a bed. So we paid for them to have a bed and a drawer, things you don't think about as as you're a child, like a bed is a basic need. And the fact that these requests come in and we want to fulfill that need, it's really eye-opening to see, to learn through the grapevine or through these requests what these children are going through. So I think that's one of the applications where I was like, man, this is important work. And of course, there are the fun ones. Sometimes the kids do end up writing us letters thanking us for what we've done. My favorite one is this little girl who we paid for gymnastics classes. And I kid you not, the letter has her doing like a cartwheel. Like she drew herself doing a cartwheel and she was like, thank you. I can almost do a cartwheel now. And it's those stories where like, yeah, I think that's a memorable moment for her. She had the opportunity to do that because we were able to support behind the scenes.
I could tell you both of your stories have me tearing up over here. That's incredible. And I do hope both of you know, and I think you touched on this, it is such an incredible impact that's being made through the time that you're giving. But I know seriously, every dollar counts. And I think what I'm hearing so often in your stories, but also the other 99 team members getting these grants through the Dollars for Doers program is that there's so many special moments that while it's $1,000 is funding important work that's being done by just these incredible nonprofit professionals. And I think what's unique about this program, and I would say our paid volunteer leave program as well, is that you have the opportunity to give back to those causes that mean the most to you. And so while Child Guardians is special to each of you, I know some of the other grants that we're funding this year are going to support canines, those that are supporting service members. Those are always popular grant recipients. We love our animals. And then there are some that are supporting some cleaning up for greening up as our other program. So some sustainability or environmental causes, and then others focused on education and those just basic needs that each of our unique communities need. And so those personal connections to the organization, I just think make such a huge difference. And I think it really can connect back to how Navy Federal, we have almost a duty to go beyond banking. So when you're telling your story, even just now about how, we were able to provide a bed potentially for a child, or supporting those special moments where foster care children are able to connect with their parents, I think that's just, it speaks to Navy Federal, at least what I've experienced in my time here, and how much we truly care for our communities. And being able to give back through programs like Dollars for Doers is just one way that we're able to do that. Are there any other special programs or things that you feel we should know about Child Guardians or any other organizations that you're part of? As I mentioned, we do have a paid volunteer leave program. So each team member at Navy Federal gets 8 hours of paid volunteer leave to give back to a nonprofit that they would like to give back to. So what other ways are you involved?
Well, I have maybe one more story about the Child Guardians. And just because I want everybody to know too that Child Guardians Incorporated, yes, it's for the foster kids, but it is for any child who is under the care in those counties, like I said, the 4 counties surrounding. But it's also, we have helped support the children in ways that you might not think about. So we've had several cases over the past couple of years where there's a parent who is trying to get their child back. Maybe they've been evicted and now they don't have some of the necessities that they need just to get their child back. And so we might spend $300 on cleaning supplies for them, or, just anything to set up the household. And that's the difference for this kid to get back with their parents. I mean, it's huge. And those kind of things also really, really get me because, the parents might be doing the right steps to get their child back and want to be back with them, but they don't always have that immediate funding or the sources to get them back. There's other families where maybe it's a grandparent who is taking in the child, but they're still in the system. And so helping them with any way possible, there are tons and tons of grandparents taking care of family members, and I'm one of those. So I ended up adopting my grandson when he was 2. I've had him since he's a newborn, which is why I know how important it is to help anybody, get that connection. He was not in the foster care, but I understand that. And that's what I want to do. I want to help make the difference in making sure that these kids are placed wherever they need to be safe and be cared for. So one other thing that I do with children, I volunteer at the NICU. I'm there every Tuesday. That's one of my other things. And I always laugh because my passions are kids and puppies. So I also volunteer for the Furry Friends of the Panhandle Rescue. I'm super involved with them. So that's just one of the other organizations through Navy Federal that I help support and volunteer my time.
And both amazing causes. I think most people can get behind kids and puppies.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think some additional things that I work on, I don't recall if I mentioned this earlier, but I'm definitely love to do behind the scenes volunteer work. So one of the areas that I do help, it's another program at Navy Federal. It's the school partnership program. I help with the Pen Pal program with a local school. I actually relocated from Florida. So this is the nice part of the virtual or in person. So when I joined Child Guardians, I was in Florida. So this was directly supporting my hometown, helping those children there. But when I relocated to the Virginia area, I was still able to support virtually. But when I relocated here, I was like, I need to get tapped into the community here at near our headquarters. And that's where I joined the school partnership program, and I help lead the Pen Pal program that's in partnership with our local school. And what's unique about that program, it connects Navy Federal employees with middle school students who are in English as second to other languages program. So through this Pen Pal program, they're able to learn how to write in English and exchange with and interact with a Navy Federal employee. And luckily for some of these employees, they also enjoy the behind the scenes work. So there's that Pen Pal aspect. They do end up meeting at the end of the school year, which is great. That's another program that I'm heavily involved in here now in Virginia, which is very cool to see. It's children, it seems to be a common thing, is I love to support children because that's one of the groups that in time, hopefully they can speak for themselves. They're starting to speak for themselves much earlier in life, but they need that extra support and people on their side to help them progress forward. So that's another area all learned about and really tapped in. I think that's a common theme here is Navy Federal just does a great job at connecting employees to the missions they're passionate about, whether it is aligned to Navy Federal's mission or not. So I can do something that's not directly tied to Navy Federal's mission, while another one is. So I'm really grateful for the opportunities that Navy Federal offers. I take full advantage of the paid volunteer leave. So yeah, it's truly an honor to be invited to this podcast to not only speak about Child Guardians being a grant recipient, but also just talking about how Navy Federal just is so supportive of it. So thank you for that.
Of course. No, you both have, I'm just like grinning ear to ear because the way you talk about our Navy Federal Service programs, I couldn't do it any better myself. And I think, I know, and to your point about, I feel like once you tap into an organization, like once you're in, like you just find things to give back and get involved. And I think what's very similar to other stories I've heard from other team members is usually you're recruited from another team member. So it's usually the call to action to say, hey, will you help with this holiday campaign? Or, hey, do you want to come give back with me for Military Appreciation Month? And then slowly but surely, other team members join your force for good. And so I have really enjoyed hearing just the stories that you've shared today about how you two got connected with Child Guardians. And then I know there are several other Navy Federal leaders that serve on the board with them and give back through that time, treasure, and talent. And then one last thing I really wanted to touch on is I think that a lot of this can be attributed back to leadership. I know my own supports me in my development and how I'm able to go out into the community. And so I think a common theme is that it really does, it's just embedded within our culture that, your leaders want you to use that paid volunteer leave and to give back. Can you tell me a little bit about the support that you've received so far here at the credit union?
Sure, I would love to tell you. So I have several leaders who are probably just as involved as I am. And so, with my leadership, not only do they encourage the employees, but they set that example of what it is to be involved in the community. And so they are constantly, mentioning other things that are going on or ask people what they're doing when we have team check-ins. Sometimes we share, different activities that we have been doing in the community, ways that we have volunteered, and we also, of course, pop in all those pictures of things that we've been doing with each other. So it's a fun way to share. And anything that I lead or try to champion, I'm always trying to get team members, involved too. And leaders are always encouraging because, it's not just an individual thing. It's a group activity. Sure, you can do things as an individual, but we also like to do things together. So we might get together and have an activity and make the tug toys, like you mentioned, for the service dog. So it's, we do things like that are team building, but it also helps our community.
And I think that's the best part. You mentioned the Navy Federal Serves t-shirts. I have to say, I have quite the collection of those pictures because they look so good on everybody. Jenny Lynn, what about you? What kind of support have you received about your passion for giving back?
Yeah, luckily the leadership that I've had here have been very supportive, primarily in you own your time. How you dedicate your workday is on you. So I have the autonomy to leave early to volunteer, and my leader's like, you do what you need to do. I trust what you're doing. So that's one of the biggest things the biggest support that I've felt is I know you're getting your work done and you're passionate about this, so go do it. Is usually what I hear from my leaders. Another thing is for some of the Navy Federal programs, they're just like, use your volunteer leave for Child Guardians, because that is the nonprofit that you're really wanting to support. My leader likes to incorporate at least 10 to 20% of your week is dedicated towards either career development or something that you're passionate about. And she's given me the opportunity to use that time to help with the school partnership program. She's like, hey, that is development for you. That's project management, that's leadership, that's coordination, and you'll be able to use those skills in your everyday work. So if that's what you want to dedicate your time to for your own development, go do it. And as long as you're getting your work done, I think that was the best support that I've had from my leadership of understanding what I'm passionate about, both at work and the activities outside of work.
I think it's so important to have that balance because I think it does connect back to just overall satisfaction in the workplace. And I can say both of you, as I mentioned, are community service champions, but we also have, I think it's a little over 200 others that are part of the Community Service Council with each of you. And that is a program where we have volunteer leaders across the credit union, whether you are serving at a campus location or in our branch office around the world, or even in our contact center. I think those individuals, that the 200 team members that come together for that, are all passionate about giving back. And so all of them have such a unique story, like each one of you. And so I just want to say thank you again for joining us. Congrats on Dollars for Doers. Thank you for being part of all of our other programs, the Community Service Council, School Partnerships Program, Board Service. You all truly are such an incredible example of how we champion our communities. And I hope that those listening are hearing what we've talked about today. And that's how Navy Federal is a company that truly cares for its people, our members, our team members, the military, veterans, their families, and the communities where we live and serve. And our team members, what I love to call our force for good, are such a huge part of how we're able to go above and beyond and give back all year round. So for questions that you might have from today's podcast, you can always get a hold of us. We'd love to hear from you. Ideas for future topics. You can email us at makingsense@navyfederal.org. That's makingsense@navyfederal.org. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, Jenny Lynn and Michelle. So great to be with you today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. I can't wait for us to be able to take the Dollars for Doers money and apply it to these kids.
Navy Federal Credit Union is federally insured by the National Credit Union Administration. This podcast is intended to provide general information and shouldn't be considered legal, tax, or financial advice. It's always a good idea to consult a tax or financial professional for specific information on how certain laws may apply to your individual financial situation. References to and participation with the military community does not constitute organizational endorsement. Navy Federal is an equal housing lender. Navy Federal Credit Union are members of the mission.